High in vitamin C, though, from my understanding. Fight off scurvy if you're on a ship going over seas with your IPA in a barrel, you know.
Eat your vitamin C. What's going on, everybody? It's Chip and William, a.k.a. Billy the Kraut.
Yeah.
Here at Northern Brewer headquarters in Roseville. We're doing a very different kind of tasting note today because we've got a fermented food tasting note. We got 2 Krauts that William, I was going to say homemade, but you made it at work.
Yeah. These
So
are professional Krauts.
It's work made?
Yeah.
William stepped up before our staff Oktoberfest last month and made 2 kinds of kraut. We're going to walk through the process. We're going to walk through what the flavors are. We're just going to let you know how easy this is to do at home.
It's super easy. So
first up, it wasn't your first time doing it, right?
No, I made kraut last year for our Oktoberfest party, and I make probably 5 to 10 batches of kraut every year.
Okay.
So I do quite a bit of kraut making, I guess.
Easy process for someone to do at home, especially if you're intrigued by fermentation.
Yeah,
such as we are.
Super easy, very introductory to fermented foods. I mean, the base one is cabbage and salt, so you can't get much simpler than that. So if you can use a knife, you can make sauerkraut, I would say.
So you've name dropped the plain one already. What's this one?
Cordito.
Uh-huh.
Hard for me to pronounce. So that one's just, it's a little bit fancier. It's got a few more ingredients. Instead of just being cabbage and salt, it's cabbage, carrots, onion, a little bit of oregano, a little bit of cumin, and a little bit of crushed red peppers.
And garlic.
Yes, and garlic.
2 totally different takes. So tell me the basic process that'll walk us through how both were made.
Yep, so like I said, if you can cut cabbage, you can make this. So first you take a head of cabbage or a couple heads of cabbage, remove the core. So the easiest thing to do is cut it in half, then half again, so quarters. Cut out that core. You can throw it away or eat it. It is edible, so some people like that. And then you just want to finely shred it. I like my kraut a little bit thicker, so I will do mostly finely shredded, and then I'll do a couple thicker ones just to give it more of that, I guess, homemade feel. And then once you get that all chopped up, you want to weigh it, because the amount of salt you add depends on the weight of the cabbage itself. So for this, I prefer to work in grams just because it's an easier conversion. It's just a little bit easier.
41 grams salt, right?
Yep.
For 2,000 and now 40. Uh-oh, I ate a piece.
What you do is you weigh your cabbage, and then 2% of that by weight you add to salt. So if it's 100 grams, you add 2 grams of salt to it. So that's why I work in grams. It's just a little bit easier instead of having half a pound of this and whatever. So.
And we did it. You chopped it up, and then you added that all to a bowl. No, it was a boil kettle.
Yes, yeah. So once you add the salt to it, then you start mixing and massaging it, and that takes a while because that's where all the liquid comes from.
Kind of starting to sweat a little bit.
Yep. Typically, it's at least, probably about 15 minutes of massaging it, and you'll see like it's dry, and you'll just keep working it. It'll start to get wetter and wetter, and you'll start to have liquid coming out of it.
What's happening there? It's just kind of breaking down. The salt's pulling that moisture out?
Yep.
Okay.
Osmotic pressure, so it's just pulling the liquid out of the cabbage. There are other options to add brine later on. I don't like that because you're just watering it down then, the flavors, where this is just cabbage and salt, so it's all cabbage flavor. A little bit, to me, more traditional and cleaner flavor for the cabbage. So
every now and then you're just picking up a big handful of it to kind of gauge how much is dripping out.
Yep, you can do that. You can ring it too if you want to see. The main thing is you want it to have enough liquid so that when you're done massaging it, you're going to pack it into the fermenter. And when you pack it in, you want some liquid above the cabbage or the vegetables, just to protect that from any mold growth or anything. Because if it's in that salt, nothing should really grow in that during the fermentation process.
So as homebrewers, we were using mini big mouth bubblers.
Yep.
You stuffed it in there. You're kind of punching it down, right? You're trying to get it as packed in there as possible, tamp it down. You're doing that hand after hand. And then not essential, but you actually used Omega's Lacto blend to just kind of jumpstart this process.
Yep, exactly. So not needed. There's bacteria, Lactobacillus on cabbage, on vegetables, on you. They're everywhere. So, I mean, naturally it will start to ferment. It takes roughly 1 to 2 weeks for most of these fermentations. I've found working at a home brew store, I could cheat a little bit and use some of that Lactobacillus, and I found that it's usually 5-7 days with a little splash of that in there, and a little bit brighter citrusy character from it, just because it probably is a known bacteria instead of having a bunch of different ones. Not needed. You make great sauerkraut regardless without it. The other thing you could do too is if you have a batch that you like, you can take some of that liquid from that other batch and put it into this new one as kind of like a yeast starter, really. It's a little bit of a lactobacillus starter for that. The other thing is we did keep a couple of those first pieces of lettuce or cabbage leaves. They work as a nice lid almost for that cabbage, so you put that in there and you have a nice even surface to keep. You can put a weight on there, or if there's enough liquid, it just keeps all the finely shredded stuff in that liquid better. We also used a horseradish leaf for one of the batches. That's kind of a traditional old school fermentation thing. So that also, it's a nice big stiff leaf, so it just works to kind of keep all of finer shredded stuff underneath that liquid.
And we went in for those first few days and kind of as a point of demonstration, just punched it down just to show you the liquid will come out of that cabbage. It will eventually should be kind of submerged under its own liquidy brine.
Yep, I've done a lot of batches, so I don't necessarily worry if that first day when I pack it, there's not a ton of liquid, because I know in that next 24 hours, there's generally enough liquid that comes out of it. I relax, go to bed, and let
Have a kraut?
Yeah. Yeah.
Have a homebrew?
Exactly.
Put an airlock on it, right? If you have one, like you were using one of the bubblers that kind of has this interesting cap, but like if you have airlocks, just use an airlock.
Yep,
Will
exactly.
you see it bubble?
No. In my experience, you don't see it bubble. You do sometimes, if it's pretty active, it will lift. Like you'll see all the cabbage kind of lift up.
Yeah.
When you push it down, you'll see more of the CO2, the gases escape. But otherwise, you don't see too much bubbling.
But it's not enough to make a true escape bubble.
No.
So that's kind of it. And we'll taste these. We'll kind of talk through them. But the interesting thing that I like about this is, like William said, you could probably obliterate this to get that more of that like texture that you're probably used to, that really stringy, almost mushy sauerkraut. I like this because I've been telling people it's like what coleslaw wishes it was.
Yes.
It's got crunch, it's got texture. So at our Oktoberfest, a lot of people were putting it kind of on top of their brats, but more than not, people are scooping it as a side dish, which is kind of what I think it's probably better enjoyed as.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that, especially when you start doing fun flavors with it and kind of altering it a little bit more. So the base one's a great one to play with. It's kind of like a pale ale, then start playing with it from there.
Double dry hopped IPA,
Yeah.
pale ale. And so these are they might be almost a month old, but we both noted that this one's kind of evolving in this really nice green vegetal flavor versus early on it was kind of just like vinegary, sulfury.
Yeah, you got more of that cabbage sulfur, a little bit more of the lactic was more up front, the brightness to that. Where now, like you were saying, it's a little bit more vegetal cabbage in a good way. Those are descriptors coming from the beer world that sound bad, but
I know. And then this other one, the Cortito, it tastes like pizza, kind of. Like as soon as you open it, you get that oregano, you get this big kick of the cumin. It's just it's like tomato sauce as far as aroma, but with the onion, the carrot in there, it really is almost like a salad unto itself.
Quite often, my wife and I will eat these as side salads in the summertime, especially on like a hot day. This crisp, cool, tart, just nice, refreshing almost.
And a little kick to it, red pepper flakes, just enough. We thought about adding more because we are both like dumb Spice Lord pepperheads, but we know we're in Minnesota. Who knows what people's heat tolerance is? So
black pepper can get spicy around here.
Yeah.
So.
So are there any tips for anybody besides kind of what we've gone over here with these two basic krauts / slaws?
No real tips, because it really is just, chop and add salt by weight. Again, I like grams. I know some people are adverse to that, but it makes the math super easy. If there's flavors that you like, try them. I do a garlic scape kraut every spring when I have garlic scapes, and I use cabbage and then I also use a little kohlrabi for that.
Okay.
That holds up a little bit more, in my opinion. And then you get the garlic scapes in there, so it's much more garlicky. I've made roasted pepper with scorpion pepper kraut before too. That one delicious, but take the wrong bite and you'll pay for it later. So really, I mean, they're fun. If there are cold salads out there that you like, you might want to take inspiration from those for the ingredients and try that as well.
I think apple.
Yeah.
I was looking at a couple recipes last night that specifically mentioned like Granny Smith apples in like a sauerkraut
Yes.
side dish.
Apples and fennel seeds are two very common ingredients for traditional kraut. So to see apple in there or fennel or both of them is traditional from my understanding.
Okay. It might add a little sweetness because it is just pretty much tart
Yeah, and
and veggie.
I've never used the apple before. I also wonder if that simpler sugar might give the Lactobacillus a little jump start too to get a faster ferment.
How long will something like this hold, I guess, is a good question.
I have some going on a year.
Sealed the same way or gone as far as like canning?
No, sealed the same way, but
Okay.
I'll transfer them down to smaller containers just so there's that less headspace. That's all you're really worried about is the headspace.
It's
like anything.
Just like hard cider, man.
Yeah, so I mean, anything out here outside of the liquid has potential to mold. So as long as you just keep packing it into a smaller container, they keep for quite a long time.
If you like fermented food videos from Northern Brewer, we would love to do them. We don't justify it as much, but we're all doing it behind
Yeah.
the scenes. So.
Yeah, yep.
So if you like that, make sure you say that below. Let us know your kraut technique, other fermented foods that you kind of thrive and survive on. Until next time, cheers, dude.
Oh boy. Yeah, we should have gotten probiotic shots out of these. Maybe a shot of vodka, picklebacks,
Pickleback.
krautbacks.
Unlock those kraut thiols. Those cabbage thiols, y'all.
You might want to lock those in. They're not great.